know, I wish I had a louder voice so I could just come be with you. I don't like the mic between us. Do you feel that way as well? It's so nice to be among these beautiful women. It's such an honor to be here with you today and share with you. I'm going to start with where I came from. I came from a family that my father believed children should be seen and not heard. He was from that era. And most of all, he believed what he really needed in this world was a son. And he had 4 daughters. But I was the oldest. And I did everything I could to be a tomboy. But it was a really hard task because he also believed there was a better field on the other side of the fence. And by that I mean we traveled constantly, what he called traveled. But what it really was, by the definition in our culture, is we were often homeless. I remember a day when there was a woman, I was barefoot, and I watched her go with her little dog, the worst, and she threw a half-eaten apple into a dumpster. I'm so bad, I wish I weren't so raw, but here I am. And I remember watching it fall in and being so sorry that I couldn't have the apple. I'm wondering if she would have noticed if I climbed in. And I remember that she looked at me and did that up and down look. I looked at my feet and said, "You should have shoes on." I remember feeling in that moment that she thought I was less. And I remember in that moment thinking, I am me. And ever since, I've had one desire in my growing child heart that's still with me, and that is, I am me, I am now, what can we do together? So this person grew up to be a scientist who loved fixing things and putting things together and studied science and engineering. I was one of only 2 women in the whole program. And I remember walking into a room and several of the young men in front of me turned around and said, "So what are you doing in engineering?" And I said, "Well, actually, really, I love science. I was really good at it, so I decided." And their eyes glazed over. But even there, I am me. I am here. I want to make a difference. And so time fast forward, and I get to tell you the miracle of every single experience we have in our life. Every one. No matter how bad or how good, all of it adds up to a beautiful thing that we get to share together in our lives when they crash together, right? So all that science and engineering took me to a door that slammed and another one opened. It was so painful for that transition to happen. And suddenly, however, I was with the Clay Foundation serving in Kenya to help more secondary education happen. And while there, a dignitary invited me to go to the slums of Kibera. And I don't know if you've ever seen them, but they're like a sea of corrugated metal and so much poverty there. Well, guess what? Someone in that group had been raised knowing what it's like to be hungry, knowing what it's like to not have a home, and even knowing what it's like to go without water. Someone in that room had that. And I just want to share with you, without going into too much time, that I feel that experience prepared me to relate to the people I was about to spend my life relating to in a way that others who had not gone through that experience might not. Because I came without judgment. I'm here. We are here. Let's see what we can do. So as it moved forward, I got introduced to an orphanage. I thought this would just kill me, but instead they stole my heart, and I wanted to help, and I started doing what I was focused on, which is more sustainable solutions, so that they could support themselves in better ways, right? So the 2008 outbreak of violence that happened after the election there, post-election violence, machetes and churches locked and burnt down with people in them, and horrible violence swelled this way too crowded orphanage of more than 400 children to a reported 1,400 children. Suddenly I was getting emails every day, and finally a call that came in and said, "We're out of food. We've been out of food and water for 2 days." Who did they call for that one? I understood, and my whole heart wanted to do something. So I went to sleep that night, a little tearful, I know, shocking for you to hear. and prayerful and going, how do I help? Whatever it is, tell me, I will do it. So I wake up at 2:30 in the morning with the following going through my mind. Have you asked what the girls are doing for feminine hygiene? I never even thought of it even once. I jumped up, I ran to the computer in my pajamas, and emailed right away, not expecting an immediate answer because they don't have computers everywhere like us. And I got one. The immediate answer was simply this: nothing. They wait in their rooms. If you saw these rooms, they're bunk beds, end to end, 2 to 3 children on each level of the bunks, 50 children to a room, and how, that's before it grew to a reported 1,400, how do you wait in your room? It took several days to get the response. They sent on a piece of cardboard. And because they have very little access to food and water, they have very little elimination, so they go without school, and they go without leaving, and they go without hygiene. It didn't take any more than nothing. They waited in the room for me to realize we got to do something about this. Well, I knew if I even was able to raise, there were 500 girls, $200 was a great deal from a nonprofit for disposable items, but I knew even if I was able to raise $200 every single month for something disposed of, if the orphanage had to choose between food and hygiene, they were going to choose food, even if they would. And that, of course, turns out to be true everywhere in the world, including here in the United States of America. There are women left without homes, seeking homes, and even just working women who choose between food and hygiene. Today, only it was bigger than that, and I was about to learn that. But I did know that we had to give them some solution they count on. So we made our first washable hygiene kits, and they were pathetic.
Yeah.
But we got there, and they were so excited. They were glowing. If you go to our website, the first page, those are the girls. And so they were glowing. They were so excited. Afterwards, a few came up because we had another talk. We had a talk about, because I had asked, who talks to them about periods? Who talks to them about keeping themselves safe and exploitation? No one, you can do that when you get here. And every organization I reached out to, did they have a program? All came back with no, but we will send delegates to observe your presentation. No! And so we got there with these first washable kits, and we presented to them that they were amazing, that they were beautiful, powerful Kenyan women, and that they could change the world. And we talked to them about being exploited or being hurt, and we taught them what this wonderful thing is called menstruation, that humanity could not go on without. And yet, we, in this culture, everywhere in the world, would rather talk about diarrhea than menstruation. Yes? What are we afraid of? Because it's leaving millions and millions of women marginalized, ostracized, unhealthy, exploited, and behind. One of the #1 reasons for dropping out of school. I didn't know that. That night at 2:30 in the morning when I was woken, I wanted to know how to feed them. And it was, have you asked? Menstruation is powerful, and it is, the lack of a solution is one of the main ways women have been held behind. And we have to speak up, because it is amazing. And we get to do that all over. And so we were having that talk. They came out, they walked to the front, they gave me a hug as they came out, because we all knew each other. And as they gave me their hugs and got their kits, and the other volunteers there were hugging and getting kits, a few of them said with big smiles, "Thank you so much, because before you came, we had to let them use us if we wanted to go to class." I hoped that did not mean what I thought it meant. I had to wait an entire additional presentation, because we did 250 girls at a time, to learn that it was as I feared. They were being sexually exploited in exchange for a pad. That too turns out to be true all over this world. 6 years later, tens of thousands of amazing, phenomenal volunteers in a grassroots effort of more than 315 chapters of teens on 6 continents have reached between 1 and 200,000 girls in 77 nations on 6 continents. And that is the power of us. It's not Celeste Mergens who's been out there. It's not. Today, I'm sure there are a lot of women speaking all over, sharing this same story. It's the power of us. It's the power of listening, and it's the power of embracing every experience we have ever had. I remember the day I got to go to Gulu, Uganda, and there had an opportunity to speak to some of the most abused people you can imagine. And there got to talk to them about experiences and standing up and speaking up for those who have been exploited instead of shunning them and turning their backs on them. In that moment, every experience I ever had was welcomed with gratitude. I know that in this circle you understand exactly what I'm talking about. The story of Days for Girls is what we can do, and we have an audacious goal, reaching every girl, everywhere, period, by 2022. So today you're invited. Please pass the word. Without periods, there would be no people in the story.